So I'm not even gonna bother to share the screen. You can take a look at the slides on your own, and that way you have them. Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and look at it right here. So it's 5 books and 1 video that have helped my pedagogy this year. The video is someone told me about this last fall. I can't believe I didn't know about this, but I didn't, which is the danger of a single story. And I cannot pronounce the author's name, but it's a phenomenal video to show your classes. And she's just amazing. And anyway, if you haven't seen it, it's really powerful and really, it does so much work and it's so beautiful. And then of course I was listening to your talk, and so I added in this thinking about cultural reference, because I love food and I love recipes. And I found this article on the woman who invented banana ketchup. And it's absolutely, her story is just astonishing and inspiring. And I don't know why we don't know more about this and about her. I do. It's because she's from the Philippines, and because she was here early on, and because she got killed in friendly fire during World War II, and because she did fantastic things, and everyone just seems to, about it if you're in the Philippines, but you don't know about her and here, and we need to know about her. She's amazing. So I just stuck that in. And then with the book list, I wanted to make the confession that the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari was really was given to me by my friend and colleague Tiffany Wong, and one of the things that I've been struggling with since both caregiving for my parents, but then also since the pandemic, is I can't focus anymore. For me to sit down and read for an hour just doesn't happen. However, I have found, like you were saying, Brenda, like the small things, I can sit down and read a page. And if that's the way that I have to read a book, that's the way I have to read a book these days. And so that's how I got through all of these books. And I got through them and I love them, and they were really helpful to me. The one, Quiet, The Power of Introverts That Can't, in a World That Can't Stop Talking. I wrote down The Power of Introverts That Can't Stop Talking. So you can tell it's the end of the day for me, but in a world that can't stop talking. This really helped me with the people in my class who are quiet. The ones who sort of come in or sneak in and they don't really talk to anybody else, or they talk to one other person and they're quiet and they do beautiful work usually. And I sometimes, after reading this book, I realized there was a push for me to feel like everybody's talking or connected in class or interacting on a certain level in class. And sometimes that's not appropriate for those people. And so I have toned that down. And I let people, if they want to work in groups, that's great. And they do a lot of times work really well in small groups. But if they want to work in pairs or work by themselves, those are options that I include now. The other one I got from when I taught the summer session that we now have for our students when they're coming in as freshmen. Last year, I asked them all, I put up a Google Doc and I asked everybody to write down what they were reading. And then I put it all together in the Google Doc so everyone could see what their peers coming into Rachel Carson College were reading. And this book was on that list and I read it. It's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. And I have, and on my slides, I've included links to either TED Talks or to podcasts or to other things those authors have done. They're short. Some of them I have not looked at, but I wanted to give everyone here, because we're all busy and we all can't focus sometimes, a way to have an intro into the books so it's not so overwhelming. Um, anyway, so I have not watched her YouTube, but it's about, she's a therapist, and it's about her therapy with her therapist and her, also her therapy practice at the same time. And I've done a tremendous amount of therapy, and I've always found it to be helpful in helping me divine some of the ways that I act in the world that can be unconscious, or driven by other things other than me, it's when I'm unconscious. And what I really liked about this for teaching was that it basically has the different points of view, her therapist view of her being both the therapist and the patient. And for me, it's like when I teach, I'm both the teacher and the student. And it's really was helpful to read that. And then also some of what was helpful was seeing how sometimes she struggles with her patients when they're having a struggle. Sometimes she's just like, oh man, I cannot listen to this person. When are they gonna get it, or when are they gonna figure this out? And sometimes that helps me if I am perhaps being either judgmental or tired, or thinking, okay, what's the problem for this, what's the problem with this student, as if it's their problem. Oftentimes it's not, especially now when so many of our students are coming in and they're dealing with so much trauma and mental stuff, and they can't tell you what's going on, and I don't think they need to be able to tell you what's going on. Sometimes you need to make space to observe and to see. And so that was helpful for me in that way. The other way, speaking of trauma, was The Body Keeps the Score. And that came out in 2014, but I listened to the podcast that I have there with Ezra Klein in 2021, and it was just amazing to me, and so incredibly helpful with how trauma can manifest in people's lives and in their body and in their expression. And it's so incredibly kind. And some of the things that really, really help people who have, who are dealing with trauma or don't even know that they are, is singing, dancing, and theater. And I haven't quite figured out how to get all those things into my class, but it just made me more aware of how important play is and how important it is to, well, maybe take a nap, or recognize that. And then Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, that's the one that I've read most recently, and it's just fantastic. I put his TED Talk in there. That isn't about this particular book, but it is about depression and anxiety. I haven't seen it, but the book's really amazing. It doesn't necessarily give us a lot of answers, but wow, yes, our focus is being stolen, and it's being stolen somewhat deliberately, and it's for some of the stupidest reasons. And I would just say, definitely take a look at the book, because it's really beautifully and well done. And he's a really good writer, and it's I don't want to say easy read, but it's a smooth read. Like I was pretty engaged the whole time. And then lastly is, I put the link of the NPR interview that I heard with Ross Gay when he was writing the Book of Delights. And I heard that interview, and I just went, I have to have this book. And it's just beautiful. He wrote an essay, or he wrote something about delight, sometimes an essay, sometimes a poem, every day for a year. And it expands what delight means or is. And it was just, it's a gem. and very inspiring and incredibly kind. And I don't know, I think that the way, I mean, I haven't really thought about how that has influenced my pedagogy other than it's fine to have times in class where there's delight. You know, there can, yeah, you know, I don't know about you guys. Well, I do, because you're here and you're at this conference, which means that you love your students. And the other thing is, at least for me, I live for the moment when I see that transformation in them, when I see them start to bloom. And it's so exciting. And we don't always get to see it, but when we do, it's fantastic. So what I wanted to do is just kind of open it up. And if in the chat, or if people want to, I was thinking I could put together a Google Doc if there's other things, because people were already talking about books or other things, articles, maybe music that inform your teaching. And we could maybe just put together a Google Doc and share it in our drive, and just so we have a place where we can go and look at things. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. So we do have over 15 minutes, a little over like 16, 17 minutes for discussion. And I know that Kim put a link in the chat, and I think it's based on the book that you were talking about, The Body Keeps Score.
Mm-hmm.
Kim, do you want to elaborate on the link?
Oh, no, I when Clara mentioned Ezra Klein and the book and trauma, I'm like, I have got to get my hands on this. So I was just Googling as she was speaking, because I saw Ezra Klein speak on campus and I was like, I fell in love with him. And so I'm like, anything he does, I want to do, I want to hear. Okay. So I found it. So I thought, I'm going to share this with everybody right now.
Thank you.
Yes. And braiding sweetgrass, Brenda put up, I have had that book. It's in one of my stacks and have not read it yet, but I definitely will. That's great. Oh, good. Yeah. And Ezra Klein I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, I listen to pretty much anything he does, and even if it's something that I'm not that interested in, and then I become interested. So, yeah.
I just want to mention that throughout the day, I've been keeping track of the chat, and any resources that people have been dropping, they'll be on a Google Doc. So please drop any more resources from Clara's prompt here, from her request, and we will include those in that same document. It'll be in the Google Drive. It's called Extra Materials from 623.
Thank you. Tim has a question.
It's more of a comment, and thank you, Clara, for sharing your materials. And I just wanted to comment, this kind of connects with some of the presentations that we've already heard, and I didn't get to say this in my presentation, so I'm going to mention it. The idea about delight and having delight in the classroom. So part of my conceptualization of the happiness project was including celebration, which I would including delight. And what we did in the last week of class, because it just fit in there, though I wouldn't necessarily do it at the very end, but and this connects with culturally relevant pedagogy for readings and students being motivated to read, is that always in my class we do a reading project where students self-select their own texts to read, and they form a book club. But this time, because I wanted to create the class as a whole community, we created a vote for books that we wanted to read in small book clubs in the class. And so we ended up doing 2 book clubs, and I was in one of them, and they were both on, one was by Korean writer, and that's the one that I was in. And then another one also was by a Korean writer. By Korea is being very productive in the culture right now. But so we had at the end, I made tons of chocolate chip cookies, and I brought them, and I created a format for creating, and I did this in my own reading club book club, is I created a chart of different types of questions that you could ask to make your discussion really juicy. And so they were like questions about a character that you want to explore more, or a question about how a topic in the book connects to your own life, and you want to discuss this with your teammates or your readers. And so then we would write those questions on different colored note cards, and then we put them in, and then we would draw the cards and read them. And we would have, so we were celebrating, we had chocolate chip cookies, we were in small groups, we were reading books that were self-selected by the students. And because they're self-selected by the students, it's culturally responsive, because they're picking something that's at their level and at their interest. And the texts that they choose are connected to their cultures. I teach students who speak other languages than English. And so that was a moment of celebration. And then our very, very last day of class was our big moment of celebration. Was we ordered takeout Chinese food. It got delivered to our classroom, and we watched Little Miss Sunshine, which is a very happy, positive movie, because our that was the theme of our class. And that's how we ended the class, with a class party. And normally I don't do, I mean, I have done stuff like this, but I get so rushed in the 10-week quarter that I just don't do these things that I used to do when I taught in a semester. And it made me realize, you know what, really, I'm going to cram in one more week when instead we could have a really lovely memory of celebrating together. So I a little light bulb went off with me when I did my positive psychology class, was that maybe it's worth it to have those moments of celebration versus having one more week of academic learning, because it's important to have those moments. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments or questions?
Found my Nap Ministry book by Tricia Hersey, and I actually loved this book, and it made me immediately go take a nap. Like, the whole idea that like naps are actually a form of like social activism, because if you can't take care of your body, the system is meant to break our bodies down, and if you don't take care of it, then you have nothing for anything else. So I took several naps after reading the book, and then I attempted to apply it to my teaching and could not for the life of me figure out. It was so ridiculous that I'm like, everything's too important. It's like so self-indulgent and ridiculous. So that's one of my tasks this summer, is to sit down and figure out where I can put those spaces in for them. I mean, they already have a couple days that I call like catch up rest days, and they can sleep or do homework or laundry or whatever they want. I have like one first half and one second half, but I want to find a few more of those spaces. So yeah, that's on my summer to-do list. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was not exhausting to read, which was nice. And it was, very inspiring when I was feeling burned out, to just be like, you know what, I can stop, and I'm going to, and then I will feel better.
So I want to jump in, because I did some of what I used to do was field work, and I did back in the 90s, I did field work doing spotted owl work, which meant that I was up really late. Anyway, I just wanted to say, since then, I have become a huge napper, because I discovered that not only did my body remember all the times that I stayed up too long, it kind of saved it up into a little debt. It didn't really save it. It put me into sleep debt. And when I went off of caffeine at the recommendation of an acupuncturist, because I was not sleeping more than 7 hours a night, I slept 14 hours a day for 2 weeks. It was crazy how much I slept, but it actually wasn't. I was paying back that sleep debt. And I really, since then, I'm definitely, I recommend napping. And sometimes I'll have a day where it's evidently my body's really tired, and I just have a very slow day. And usually the next day I'm able to have much more energy and go forward and do stuff. So I'm just going to back you up and say, listen to that. And yeah, let's tell our students, take naps. So, okay, thanks.
Thank
Oh,
you.
fantastic. There's the Google Doc. That's great.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
We still do have some time left. Do we have any more comments or questions for Clara? Okay. All right, we'll wrap that up with Clara's session. And I just want to say, like, I think you bringing in these books and you talking about it so openly and sharing that you're like an all-encompassing learner and showing that you are reading these texts for your own well-being and also throughout all aspects of your life and applying those same concepts into your classroom. And it teaches you a lot about yourself and it just teaches you about humanity. So thank you for highlighting that compassion and grace that we should continue to keep giving out to each other.